over 20 years, Valley Vision has been publishing the art and literary works of high school students in the Boise School District. The works are chosen by student representatives from each high school, and the inspiring visions of these talented young artists and writers are given an outlet in this publication. We are grateful to the Boise School District for continuing to support this tradition. This year's Valley Visions has been selected to receive the rank of Superior in the 2020 National Council of Teachers of English Recognizing Excellence in Art and Literary Magazines program. This prestigious national award publicly recognizes excellent literary magazines produced by secondary students with the support of their teachers. Now let's meet this year's Boise School District students whose excellent art, literary works, and talents are featured in this year's award-winning Valley Visions magazine.
So being in the Valley Vision magazine this year, I think it's a great honor. And the fact that somebody looked at my artwork really means a lot to me because this is the first time I've ever submitted my own artwork into a contest or a competition. And I feel like it shows how much I've come along. It's amazing how I'm a part of this whole deal with artists and writers who in a lot of aspects are like really talented and really more talented than me. And I feel like it's encouraged me to persevere in a lot of different aspects also. So before the pandemic, I don't think I've actually attempted to communicate through art. I feel like I've made some progress, though I still have a long way to go. Like a lot of people, art was a way I could cope with this whole situation with the pandemic. I think I've finally established a small sense of identity of who I am as a person through art. And it was also a chance to improve immensely.
I'm just really excited and proud. Like, I know I'm not in the New York Times or something, but I tend to be very sensitive and like passionate about my art. And so I'm really glad that someone liked it enough to put it in a magazine, even if it's like district magazine. It's very exciting for me. I've never really had something like that or like that sort of recognition. It feels like a big deal. I don't know how big of a deal it actually is, but I'm very proud. I would love to say that I'm the kind of person who like art is the only thing that has kept me alive for the past year. But in reality, it's been pretty hard for me. Just to make art has been kind of a challenge, and sometimes it's felt like a chore. And I think in that way, it's been even more important to keep making art because, it's forced me to like commit to something and work at something.
Kind of makes me happy to know that my art got chosen for this and that, I don't know, other people think it's good that aren't people super close to me who are going to say it's good anyway. Especially in early quarantine, like lockdown time around last March and especially this summer, I drew a lot more than I had been, mostly because I didn't have anything else to do. I had a lot of free time. I picked back up on this tutorial series I've been following on YouTube, and I think I improved a lot in terms of like technical ability in drawing people and like muscle structure and stuff like that. Just like all the technical stuff. It was also really good because it made me feel like I was actually doing something with my time. Since I was stuck at home, I really wasn't doing anything else. I didn't see any of my friends. I was just me and my parents at my house. So I feel like I was actually making progress with something I cared about. It was really good, especially because I usually don't have that much time to draw during the school year. So like actually be able to put time into art and see improvement over like a shorter period of time was really satisfying.
Being in the Valley Visions magazine means a lot to me because it makes me feel like I actually have the potential to turn my skills into a career, and it's really nice to have your art featured in any magazine. It was definitely super important for me to spend my time during the pandemic working on my art because I had this opportunity to because I had so much extra time with not being in school full time. So I just kind of threw myself into my art, and it's definitely been beneficial for me because I've definitely seen more improvement in the detail and how much time I spend on my art. Definitely the most interesting part was seeing all the different types of art, like how photographers or people who sketch or people who make art out of certain materials. It was nice to see the difference between all of them and see how unique each artist is.
Unbound. I wish I was able to feel everything that the world has ever felt, feel the intense pain and suffering, and also the most love and joy and excitement. I suppose when we die, we may have a chance to experience this, to be everyone else while being me, to have the eyes of children and elderly, to have fresh ears that not only listen to the words and sounds, but hear them, a mind that can think above my human emotion, but also feel emotions deeper than humanly possible, a mouth that speaks words of love and encouragement, hair that shows my patience and wisdom, feet wearing thick calluses from walking the trails of the earth, to swim infinitely across the ocean, arms and legs so strong that I never have to stop, to dive so deep so quickly that the bends take me and make me a part of the ocean, to see the bottom of the ocean with the eyes of the lurking creatures at the depths of the sea, to know what exists past our knowledge, past our arrogance and overconfidence, what truly rules the world, below sea level, past what radars can detect, past what cameras can see, past what humankind knows far beyond this planet. In the depths of nothingness, I wonder what lies beyond our gravitational pull. If we could float and our lungs could withstand the vacuum, who is beyond us? What is? I wish I was not so blind on this earth. I want to be free, to let my spirit exist as itself without the limitations of my fleshy human body with heavy bones and too squishy skin. I do not dwell on it though. One day my soul will be set free and I will understand everything. My time on this earth is something to treasure and hold dear to me. I will have all the rest of time to know the things that my human mind cannot comprehend. Beyond my eyes that can only see 120 degrees, I cannot see even half of what is around me. Nevertheless, in the end, we are all one. It does not matter that I can only see from my eyes because we return to our origin, where we share the same eyes. We are more than 107 billion pairs of eyes, and our body is made of the same mud, our mind of the same consciousness. It returns to the earth. Our soul is of energy. It returns to the atmosphere and to the ground. Once we give our breath back to the earth, it gives the breath of life to another. We are no longer bound by bodies. We are finally all one. Finally, the same eyes, ears, emotions, knowledge, and experiences. There is no need to feel restless anymore. I am the universe experiencing itself. I am finally unbound.
I felt really honored to be asked to be one of the student editors. Writing has been a giant part of my life, and I've always been really passionate about it, so I really enjoyed being part of the process and really appreciated being given the opportunity. I honestly loved every single piece that I read. Whether the piece ended up getting published or not, I think each piece brought something unique and engaging, whether being rich in dialogue or having vivid descriptions, an engaging storyline, or even some of the pieces had really strong comedic timing and comedic dialogue. And regardless of, again, like the piece making of the publication or not, every piece was really unique and I enjoyed reading every one. To write whenever inspiration strikes, regardless of if you think it's going to be a good piece or if you think you can write it down later. I think just write it down regardless. Some of the pieces that I am most proud of have been written down on napkins or math notebooks, or like even on my arm if I didn't have any paper on me. And any piece has the potential and possibility to be absolutely breathtaking, and just don't sell yourself short and think, oh, it's not good enough to write down, because you never know what's going to happen if you do.
The morning was like any other. Mama and I made breakfast, eggs and bacon, while the boys milked the cows, spread the hay, and tried to do as many chores before cleaning up. Then we all prayed, ate, and got ready for church. All the siblings jumped in line and walked down the dirt road we knew every pebble in. "May, would you make me the happiest Joe in town and marry me?" whispered John, so quiet I could barely hear him. He was leaning over the back of my pew, whispering in my ear like any young boy who refused to give up would. I giggled and swatted him away like the bug he was. I was 15, not 20, and he was 17, ready to work and ready to leave for college. I had known him my entire life. Our mamas made a big dinner once a week, and our dads listened to every ball game that they could catch together. But he was always teasing me like this. From pulling my pigtails in the backyard to untying the ribbons in my dress before I read that day's verse. He was relentless, and it was quite impressive, considering how I treated him after every single one of his confessions of love, no matter how much trouble it got me in. But he was an afterthought, and I was the girl he would leave behind once he went to a big city one day, no matter how many hours I spent thinking of his face. A war caught on, one we thought we won. What was then called the Second Great War. His name was written in dog tags, and his letters were stamped. When we went to drop him off at the train, we expected to see him again. America would end it as soon as possible, as soon as they joined. That was Uncle Sam's promise. But we went weeks before we even got a scratch about his troop, number 247. He was the one who survived. Then in another battle, he got hurt, but could still fight, so he would stay. He begged to stay. He wrote me letters with small, wilted and dried flowers and crumbled leaves, all pressed by the books I sent him. Before he grew up, he loved to read all kinds of novels, silly stories about knights slaying dragons to save princesses. He said he wanted so badly to be my knight. In this way, he said he could be. His letters were pages long, dripping down the side of the paper like he had no light when writing. Sometimes the words fell off onto the envelope, and I'd have to try and puzzle it together by shifting them. The words that filled them were dark. Everything the newspapers were saying wasn't happening. His letters told a story of us losing and our boys dying. He wrote about fellow soldiers who fell beside him and died in his arms. He was like a brother. He wrote about my long brown hair and how he wished he was laying in my lap instead of the mud and dirt. He told me he was supposed to be home soon, but it might not happen. In the end, he came home for a little while, decorated and honored like a man should be. We won, and he was there to see it. But at night he would scream. I could hear it through the windows. His room, maybe 10 feet away. I saw his pacing silhouette every night. I saw him change shirts and the white and brown lines across his chest from calling in mud and brush. I saw his gnarled feet from the mud and how it hurt him to walk. It was the feet that did it in the end. He was about to propose, his sister Susan told me, and she helped him pick a ring. He had it in his breast pocket under the purple heart pin that was glossed every morning. He was on one knee when he fell. I was the one that got help. I was the one in the car with him, deaf by the sound of the sirens. I held his hand for hours without letting go, with that ring on my left finger. He woke up to tell me he loved me and that he was going to marry me as soon as possible. Then he fell asleep again. He never woke up. His service was at the church we grew up together at. It was the day he wanted to get married. The sky was clear, not a cloud in the sky, just pink flowers in the trees and green grass as far as the eye could see. It was a perfect day for the wedding and a worse day for a funeral. I read passages from his favorite books, all stories of heroes and knights, and how he became one. I read about the pigtails that he pulled and all the rocks he threw at my window, the faces he made through the fence, and all the times he touched my hair. I read about how I felt his hand let go, how his eyes sunk, the smile on his lips, the way his body became a statue. He was buried in his suit, covered in his pins, and pressed flowers, like a man should be.
A red sky at dawn, a mushroom cloud. The waters take their first yawn, and it's loud. So very, very loud. So much so that it draws in a crowd to come to the docks and watch in flocks, as the world turns to red and ash, to watch the ship's mast as it snaps in the storm. Every eye is cast, for everyone is born. To watch the sun say goodbye behind the mountain sigh, little trees shudder and gasp for air. As we all rely on another, life just isn't fair.
I felt very honored to have been asked to be one of the editors by my teacher this year, and I was also really excited because last year when I was asked to do it, I was like, maybe this will be fun. And then I got there and I got to reading all the pieces, and it was really cool to have been able to read all the students' pieces, people my age and people who are going through the same phase of life as me in the same district as me. So this year when I was asked, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to do that, and I was really excited. I was very impressed with the quality of the work this year. I thought they were all very fitting for the Valley Visions magazine, and it was really cool to see the entries because you could just tell the passion of each writer through their work, and that was really fun to read and really cool to see. I would say to read a very broad spectrum of genres, not just stick to one. Also write, just don't stop writing. And if you can, join a creative writing class. That really helped me better my writing and give me a better grasp of my own style too. And my teachers really helped me, so.
This is Learning to be Brave. My fear manifests as a raisin-skinned demon, wrinkled and ugly with taloned fingers and a twisted nose, knotted like the trunk of a 200-year-old tree. It takes up an overwhelming amount of space, blocking the sun from view and covering me in its massive shadow. Most often, my fear demon beats on my brain, determined to remind me of my doubts, my worthlessness, my imperfection, and my many mistakes. He materializes with the sole purpose of discouraging me from trying, from taking new risks and being comfortable with imperfection. Don't get me wrong. I'm driven, and I self-motivate well. I wrestle with integrals and derivatives and string together my essays with intention and care. I put together volunteer projects for my club and see them through. I spring up reluctantly at 5:30 a.m. to drive to swim practice. But my biggest barrier in life is my fear. I've given in to the demon's whispers too many times to count. The first time I attempted to mountain bike, he was there. Hanging around every curve of the trail, he reminded me how steep the drops were, how unsteady my pedal strokes were, and how I would never make it over that foothill without stepping off. I repeated his words to myself, not good enough. On that dusty trail, bikers flew past me, soaring over jumps like wannabe falcons. I stood off in the sagebrush, mortified and frustrated, holding my bike as far away from me as possible, disgusted by my own inability to perform. That day, my fear won. My mind splintered against the rough sandstone hillsides, shattering against the oiled chain of my new bike. My eyes welled up with shame-filled tears. I wrapped myself in self-doubt and shame. I like trying new things. I excel at trying new things. Why was this thing so hard? Nearly a year and a half later, I was working as a counselor at a summer camp in Cascade, Idaho. My cabin of 10-year-old girls decided to try mountain biking that day, filled with dirt-smeared enthusiasm. The trail was totally different from my last experience, shadowed by a dense packing of ponderosa pines, hiding white-streaked chipmunks and whistling jays within their lanky branches. I found myself worrying less about me and more about my camper's ability to ride the route-torn trail. One of my campers was falling behind quickly. She was getting frustrated with the awkwardness of her bike, her cheeks turning pink and her voice growing sharper as she yelled for us to slow down. I realized the girls needed more help with mountain biking than me. I relinquished my fears of not being strong enough or brave enough to the blue sky. My fear demon melted into the wildflowers at my feet. Nowadays, my fear looks less like a demon and more like an earwig, a creepy crawly that's more of an annoyance than a true terror. It's an easy fix to remove the earwig, requiring only a cup or a sturdy boot. Most often, however, I scoop it into a container, placing it into a shadowed corner of the earth, letting it make itself comfortable within the dry bones of a sagebrush. It always returns, scampering across the floor to rest at my feet, but now I'm not afraid of it. I'm learning that my fear doesn't have to overwhelm me. If I wrap myself in it, fear doesn't suffocate me. I'm learning to compare less. I'm learning to not be afraid of judgments and critics. I'm learning that I have worth. I'm learning to be more comfortable with discomfort. I'm learning to embrace the imperfection of my humanity, fear, and all. I am learning to be brave.